Hello and welcome to Gooners in the USA. Hey, Mike, this is a weird week for me and you because we're going head to head in fantasy
Yeah.
NFL.
Yes.
And I kept asking a bunch of our friends we're in a mutual text message group with, do we want to do fantasy? And for 2 years, Mike kept going, fuck fantasy, fuck that.
Fuck Fantasy Premier League is what I said.
So
Specifically.
we did a fantasy NFL league, and everyone's getting super hardcore into it. And I play Mike this week, and you're gonna kick my ass.
I was kicking your ass earlier, and you have made a massive comeback. But tomorrow night, I got
Tomorrow
you.
night,
Tomorrow night, you know what's coming.
You beat me.
You know what's coming. But yeah, fantasy. Fantasy's good, but the real fantasy will occur when I come over to visit your house in a couple of weeks. So.
Yeah, is that next weekend or 2 weekends?
It's
next
2 weekends from now. I will be making a pilgrimage to Denver to meet Andy for the first time since we started doing the podcast. The second time overall.
Well,
and that will be exciting. And for anyone that's now,
it's not like we've just met once. Like we did hang out together for a very long weekend. Embraced.
The amount of light shining on your face right now reflects how well I know you. I feel that I know you. It's not very much.
I'm doing this podcast by candlelight.
And what podcast could you watch where you get 2 or 3 minutes in and people can clearly see that there's a man in a Mexican
you know, it'd be really funny.
And we just haven't even mentioned that he's here.
It would be really funny if he just sat there the entire pod and we never mentioned it.
Oh, God, that'd be good. So, welcome to the podcast. You know, this man is making his second appearance on the podcast. The first kind of full pod. We had him on a couple weeks ago, but he looked a little different a couple weeks ago. He is a Mexican wrestler named Low T. David motherfucking Ziegler from the Alamo City Arsenal Supporters Club. Welcome, Dave. Is it time to do what Mexican wrestlers are not supposed to do and take their mask off?
It's good to have to in a minute. Yes, I can't wear it for long.
I can't breathe. I've passed out twice so far already. Well,
and I can't really hear very well through these things.
That's how we prefer our guests. You know, there's just absolutely no communication. Our communication skills are awful to begin with. So David joined us 2 or 3 weeks ago to talk about the Gooner Roundup, which was an event being held in Austin, Texas. The event ended, or for some people hasn't ended yet, but it ended earlier today, I believe. And from what I can tell online, I'm absolutely gutted, and I don't have the bell today. So I'm gutted to have missed it. But, you know, tell us about what is probably 1A and 1B or 1B of the largest Gooner gatherings in the U.S. for American Gooners. I mean, how was the weekend?
I'll bet you we probably – so last year was it? I'm going to take this stupid thing off.
I can't believe you're wearing that. I mean, I'm not wearing pants for anyone but he's wearing more masks than he should be wearing.
We've gotten a little taste of what Lori likes in the boudoir.
That's right. You know, do you wear that at appropriate times?
Right over there.
Hi, Lori. We love you.
She's waiting right over there. Well, she can't hear you because I've got the headphones on.
Now you've been on the podcast more than Lori has. You've finally taken the lead.
I have, yes. I'm the leader in the clubhouse household. All right, you asked about Gooner Roundup.
Yes.
And last year was in San Antonio. We probably doubled the size. I think the group, it just the people that traveled in, people that traveled up from San Antonio, we probably doubled what we showed up last year. It was a big turnout. It was a really big turnout. I'm not aware of any untoward incidents. We didn't embarrass anybody.
Joey Murphy didn't get arrested. He's coming back in one piece.
Joey Murphy said something about missing an evening event, and when he misses events, I start to get worried.
Did you get the video?
No, I haven't seen any video of Joey yet.
Oh, we sent you video. We sent you, Mike Feinberg, video. You need to go look at it while you're talking to us here.
You are talking to the correct person. I can confirm that. I have a name tag that proves who I am.
I'm going to ask in a minute if we texted it to you because Lori did it.
Oh, I'm sure you did, but I myself was not in the best of intellect yesterday, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. But
so specifically, Joey Murphy lost the ability to form words at some time in the early afternoon yesterday.
They were at like the age of 9.
But it was just completely gone. But I love Joey. I think he had a good time up to that point. After that, I didn't really see him. And I think some people are still in Austin. There's people still there. I know Michelays are still there. We saw pictures of them going around doing touristy stuff this afternoon.
And they're like 89 years old, those guys, and they're still there partying. I think Tom's still there. And another, speaking of Murphys, I got a shout out to Kevin Murphy, who complained the other day that our podcast has got so big that I never throw his name in there anymore. This is a buddy of mine from the local pub. So we're not that big, believe me. We just didn't really think that you were that important anymore. So that's really kind of what happened. So any
get a crawler. You should get a crawler. Just have a crawler with names going across the bottom, or just people you want to just mention all through the whole show.
Yeah. Future podcast guest Keno. Anything good from Keno this weekend? I saw videos of him. This guy, if you haven't met him, and none of you have unless you're like us, probably the most fun Arsenal supporter to like watch a game with.
Yeah.
Or just watch life with.
Oh yeah.
Dude brings a smile to my face, that guy.
One of my favorite people on the face of the earth. He is honestly one of the most good-hearted people I have ever met under any circumstances anywhere. And he's serving our country in the Air Force.
Born in Jamaica or born to Jamaican parents? Or
born in Jamaica.
And loves this country, the guy's story is unbelievable, and he couldn't be more fun. When his voice gets hoarse, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
And that happens at like 8 o'clock in the morning.
He held out. He did really good with the accent. He had the voice the whole way through.
You did so good yesterday, I'm so proud of you.
But he had 2 months worth. He's been, he actually wasn't, I want to say deployed. He lives here in San Antonio. He was sent to whatever the Air Force base is. Is it Tyndall, I think, near Fort Walton Beach or Panama City in Florida. He's been there for 2 months. And there's no branch around there. There's no pub to watch the matches. So he's been sitting around for the first 2 months of the season, just bottling up all of this. And then all of a sudden, he got back in town. Actually, he was in New Orleans on Thursday. He made it to town on Friday and went straight to Austin. He got right into it Friday night. And then by Saturday morning for the match, it was 2 months worth of post-World Cup through now excitement just coming out of this guy. So, if you know him.
That's a huge load right there. Speaking of which, Andy, is your son all clean now? Nice clean baby.
All clean, Mike? Because I just scrolled up in the text message group and almost fucking gagged.
Yeah, well, I bet your son and I have something in common from today, and the only difference between us is that I was not wearing a diaper at the time.
Oh, God.
It's been one of those kind of weekends, Hey, what I can say. So, before we get into the proper pod, I do want to say, in the U.S., for those of you who are not familiar, NBC Sports televises the Premier League. They do a great job of it. Some people are not that happy that they've put some of the games behind a paywall, which, look, that happens, I guess. But,
I love it.
At least we get to see it. If you live in England and it's a 10 o'clock game, your game's not on TV at all, and you got to get, computer herpes in order to watch it. So, but they do this thing where they travel to certain cities and they have a fan fest. And from 6:30, 7:15 in the morning, they have fans of all the clubs at this event, which was in downtown Washington, D.C. The bars open at 7. They're different watching, for the 10 o'clock matches where there were 5 or 6 matches on at once. There were different watching areas. They did the pregame and the mid and the halftime and the postgame telecast from there. And I just got to say, I thought it had the potential to be really lame and really like overproduced and stupid and cheesy. And it was none of those things. It was fun. It was like a reunion of all the different local supporters clubs where I don't always see the people from the other clubs. And of course, we beat Watford, but there were packs of Arsenal supporters walking around when Tottenham fans were getting interviewed by NBC and just drowning them out with chants. And, we won the league at Shite Hart Lane and chanting Milton Keynes over and over again. And they would come back with some stupid shit about Thursday nights. And I'm like, is that the best you got? But it was classic. It was fun. It was a wonderful day. And apparently a certain sign for this podcast, which was as unprofessional as the podcast itself is. It was like a whiteboard with little stencil letters stuck onto it.
It was fucking pathetic.
It was pathetic, but then again, I wanted it to be in tune with kind of like,
it was there.
It was there.
It was there.
That's the nicest thing you could say about it.
I shared with you what my father said when he saw it on TV.
Which was?
There's some virgin holding up a sign about your podcast.
Your family is obsessed with virginity. I don't know how you have a kid. But, look, I am, if nothing else,
all I'm going to say,
I'm a marketing major.
People have put more effort into their sides than you did.
Homeless people, well, look, I did get a lot of donations as well. So, but fun time yesterday. You're welcome. That'll. I just spent our entire marketing budget on that sign. So now we're gonna get like 1 million views to this podcast because everybody in the world is now aware of it. And then in 2 weeks, I'll be on WWE.
The WWE sign was classic and it was well done, but I think your son probably made that. So thank you, Jake.
There's a pretty good chance of that, and they took it. Otherwise, I would have used that one for this event. So,
yeah. So another 3 points in the bag.
Let's not forget about Brentford. We don't have to talk about Brentford. We don't have to talk about it, but we did win.
We did
a cup game. We're making a deep run into the final 30 to 16 teams left. Is that what happens when you win one game in this fucking thing? You get to the final 16?
You're basically in the semifinals.
They're not a bad club. It could have been a banana skin, and I'm excited because now there's a 5th Arsenal game that I will be able to see while I'm over there. David, I know that you're going over there as well, but you're doing some stuff outside of London as well. Are you going to be in town on Halloween?
No, I'll still be in Portugal.
All right, well, fuck you.
Okay.
I will be spending Halloween at the Emirates watching Blackpool, and I'm thankful for that because otherwise it would have just been 4 games, and that's not enough. But we won. We seem to be through to the finals at this point again, and then we'll play Man City, and that'll be that.
Yeah.
But any comments, Dave, Andy, Dave, anything that you guys want to add about that game? It was kind of basically the Vorskla game all over again.
Yeah, no, and we had briefly talked that we thought the lineup would be very similar to that, and I think at this time Unai is just trying to get this team as embedded as possible into the system, and for that to happen, you need to have the majority of your team playing, and I thought defensively we looked pretty solid in that, and at the end of the day, Brentford are a good side. I mean, they're no pushover, and so
next few years they could find their way making it like
they very well
playoffs into the Premier League.
Yeah, they'll be flirting with it for sure. So we'll see what happens. I think Unai will take that tournament seriously.
I'm surprised because I thought that might be the one that they don't take seriously, but I mean, he seems to be going for it, and if we have the depth to be able to take it, then so be it. David, did you watch the game like at a pub or did you watch it at home? Because just kind of Carabao-y.
Well, since I'm speaking in public here, I was at work, so no, I had to watch the match later.
I don't get to watch any midweek games.
No, not at all. Can't. What actually occurred to me with that was, under Wenger in the Carabao Cup or whatever we call that thing, he'd throw in just all kids. And he'd still, of course, win the first match, whatever. It does look like we actually threw some guys out there. A few. We put Elneny in. We put in Holding, who needed the time because he was going to be the starter a couple days later. We played a few more of the kids, but I almost would have liked to see some more of the kids get out there. But just for me, it is just, they keep saying it, just the League Cup.
I mean, really the only one of what we would call the kids that I guess on a regular basis is going to be starting for the U23s was Smith Rowe, as far as starters were concerned, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe there could have been a couple more. I mean, Willock's kind of fallen off the map a little bit lately, and but I mean, there's guys that we keep hearing about like Osei Tutu and
right,
and a couple other guys that I think we could be seeing in these League Cup matches. And when the next League Cup match comes, it's going to be 3 days after Palace. It's going to be 3 days before Liverpool. I think we need to see a switch lineup. If we go out to Blackpool, I mean, my God, that's going to suck. But I mean, between Palace and Liverpool, two pretty important games in the Premier League, Palace being away, which isn't easy. I would say that that's the time to start to see some kids.
Yeah, probably.
Eddie, how do you feel about seeing some kids?
All right.
Since you look like you look like a child molester in that light, so I mean, come on.
This is my this is how I woo the ladies, and it's been requested by some that listen to the pod. I'm sorry, Mike, but I the fans.
I don't remember Becca ever saying that.
That's true. So let's move on to Everton. 3 points in the bag.
Everton.
Sorry, Watford. Confidence is high, and as Rob Holding said, we have a winning mentality under Unai, and we're seeing that winning mentality week after week, and I just simply love it. I think it's absolutely just awesome. This is a lot of fun.
We've won 7 out of our last 7 games. I mean, I don't think I've not done all the research on this, but I don't think anyone has won more than 7 out of their last 7 games. City hasn't done it. Liverpool hasn't done it.
No.
I don't know because it's a feeder league, but I bet you Barcelona does not have 8 wins out of their last 7 games.
I mean, has Chelsea? They might be the only team that comes to mind.
Well, no one's won more than 7. I know that. So, yeah. I mean, it's almost impossible to win more than 7. So, I mean, I'm thrilled with it. I can't complain. I know that it's been a flat track, but, I mean, when have we ever dominated a flat track the way that we have in the last few months? So, I mean, Dave, and just – before we start talking about specifics of the game, I mean, are you feeling it right now?
Not yet.
No.
Nope. Not yet.
You're holding out.
I'm holding out. Yeah, I'm holding out.
Someone's got to.
This is the part we're supposed to, and yeah, you called it flat track, and that's what we're in. We're in a flat track. We're supposed to be doing this. So I keep looking, and I think I said this when I was on last time. I keep looking more at how we're performing as opposed to what the results are. I get the whole thing about you want to win ugly. I don't think we're winning ugly right now. We're just...
Are we winning lucky?
A little bit. Yeah. I mean, it feels like we're winning a little bit lucky because there's a lot of unlucky stuff going on. Lacazette, I'll go into the specific for a minute. Lacazette's missed a lot of shots. And then the one he does get actually goes off the defender when he jumps over the ball. So we look unlucky and then the luck kind of kicks in. But there's a lot more to it than that. But no, I'm not ready to kind of like say, hey, this is really something yet. I still feels very, very lucky.
I mean, November 3rd is gonna tell us a lot.
Well, yeah, and that was
that's the one. Yep.
So this time last year we were 6 points off of first. This year we're 5 points off of first. But I feel like last year we were miles behind, even at 6 points. By week 11, we were already 12 points behind City. And I don't see that being the case this year. And it might be because of the run of games we've had. But outside of Man City and Chelsea, so week 1, Watford were probably the best team we've played. And I was never in doubt that we weren't going to win. Although the first half, again, I just assume we're never going to score a goal in the first half for the entire season. Like,
maybe the most like you don't want to talk about guaranteed money, like. Halftime tie, full game win, just every week. Just pound that, because that seems to be our credo right now.
Yeah, and to David's point, Lacazette, I mean, he has missed a lot of shots, but at least he's taking them. I mean, that's kind of my takeaway from it. Is like we want the striker to be taking shots, and that first one where he had the keeper 1-on-1, and it was just a. From first thought, I was like, oh, the defender got a boot on that. And it was just a terrible miss. But, I can't remember since Van Persie a striker we've had where we could say, like, give him 10, 1 or 2 is going to go in. Yeah. And he'll take the 10 shots if he gets it in a match. And then, hey, if he's not going to make it, then we got another fucking world-class striker to the left of him that will. So I hope he keeps shooting, but you're right. I mean, it hasn't looked pretty, but we're still getting the 3 points. And I don't think by week 11 we're going to be 12 points behind first place. I really don't.
And last year, while we hadn't really dropped that far back yet, there was a stink on this team last year at this time that was undebatable. I mean, between the Chamberlain issue and Alexis still throwing strops all the time, this team was not in a good place at the end of September last season. and that led to the October and November, capitulations, one after another, right, that brought us down the table.
Yeah.
This team feels like the opposite. And
well, like last year, and guys, you can tell me I'm wrong, but personally, for me, when we were
you're wrong.
When we were 6 points behind at this point last year, as Mike was saying, the stink was so heavy. I thought to myself, it's a wall. We're never going to bridge that gap. We're 5 points behind, and I'm looking at this team and I'm thinking we're only going to get better. I don't think I'm not saying we're going to win the league, but I don't think we're going to finish 21 points off of fourth. I think we're in that mix.
Are you here to say that we're going to win the league?
Yes.
No, I actually think what you just said is perfect, because I see the 5 points behind us in first place, I see as almost a bridge too far. But to fourth place, the 21 points behind fourth last year?
It was something crazy.
That's ridiculous. I mean, if we're any points behind fourth this year, it won't be 21. It might be 1 or 2. But I mean, frankly, I think third place or fourth place is ours for the taking at this point. And I mean, especially if we can keep doing the flat track stuff that we've been doing. The way you make top 4 is you don't lose to the teams behind you. Or you don't do it very often. And that's really this season all he has to focus on. And we see who we got. We see whether they fit the system. We get rid of the people who don't. And God, if we can finish third or fourth with that happening, all the better. But, there's nothing but optimism from me right now, because I don't really expect that much out of this season. But I've gotten more than I've expected so far.
Well, and David, one thing we talked about at the end of last season, kind of the beginning of this season, is where in the top 4 does Arsenal fall? Because last season there was just that strong, solid top 4. And we kept wondering, okay, for us to even attain a top 4 position, one of the teams in there has to break loose. And I think we're capitalizing on the Manchester United conundrum that's happening right now. But then you look at Spurs, they're not playing as fluid football. They are healthy right now, and once they start hitting injury, then they are really going to suffer because they don't have the depth, right? And they're in the exact same spot we were 10 years ago, building that stadium, not being able to invest in depth. So you look at those two teams and you think to yourself, okay, we can overtake those two. And then you look at Chelsea this week.
That's the third. I was holding up 3 fingers.
Yeah.
Because those are the 3 teams that we have the possibility.
I was going to say, you look at Chelsea and you think, okay, they're the third. And then you see what they did to the probably one of the best teams in European football twice in 1 week.
It is impressive.
So, David, do you think we can leapfrog 2 or 3 of those teams? Or do you think, hey, maybe United's the only team at this point?
Now, City, Liverpool are the 2 teams pulling away.
Yeah.
I mean, they're clearly pull off. So then there's just at that point in my mind, it's a group of 3. It's City, that other team, and us. And I think you've outlined the stories all really well. Tottenham is sitting where we were 10 years ago. They've got to deal with the stadium stuff. In fact, they've got to deal with what we had to deal with when we hired Gazidis and started selling off players and doing all kinds of stuff to try to balance the books. They're going to have a hell of a time for the next couple of years, which is going to be fantastic to watch.
They're going to get more money for the players that they sell than we did, but
the market's made up for that, Mike, because the players they're going to want to buy will be twice the amount of the players that we were. So it's like it's a balance.
Lamella would be $100 million player right now, obviously, because so quality.
Yeah, they're going to lose what? At some point, they're going to probably have to sell Alder Wilt or whatever the hell his name is. And they're going to want to maybe spend some money. Let's go get a really good English defender. Let's get Harry Maguire. And they're going to want $70 million for him.
Yep.
More.
For that guy's gigantic head. They're going to want $70 million. So,
$50 million for the head, $20 million for the rest of his body.
Right, yeah. That's actually a really good point. The market's already priced that in. Chelsea, I'll probably come back to them. But, the thing that kind of strikes me about Arsenal right now, we feel to me, this is why I'm not entirely not optimistic. When I answered the question a minute ago, it's not that I'm not optimistic. I'm just not ready to buy all the way in yet, because I feel like we're the Hickory basketball team about halfway through the movie Hoosiers. And Jimmy hasn't signed on to play with the team yet. Right? So Gene Hackman,
4% of our viewers will understand that reference.
Okay, it's an old basketball movie.
People in Mozambique are probably not going to get that.
Only 66% of the people listening right now know what's going on.
And only 50% of the people listening are actually listening. So,
as long as 100% of the people talking know what I'm talking about.
That's true.
But we're trying to obviously trying to install a system. We're kind of sticking to it. We're tweaking it just a little, and at some point that one piece is going to just fall in place. The chip is going to hit, and when it does, then we're going to feel like, okay, this has really paid off. It really has worked. And I mean, a lot of the signs are there, and I know you guys don't want to get into the match yet, but when we made our subs,
we're trying.
Some of those signs started like looking like right. It was like, hey, this really seems like it works. So yeah, no, we're trying. I keep coming back to it, don't I? Sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
No, well, I was going to say, let's jump into the second half because we were a stronger and smarter team. I thought that we had some really great forward movement. We saw ourselves go 1-0 up. We were unlucky. We were lucky that the goal was scored the way it was because it was an own goal. But Mike, if it hadn't gone in, could you have fought for a penalty there? Because just the motion of both him and the defender falling, and he was dragging Lacazette down. You're kind of like maybe, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. We got the goal, and as David said, we're very lucky to have gone 1-0 up, but I can't say we didn't deserve it. I thought we were better than them in the second half, and
you make your own luck. Which is something you say when you've just won. You don't say that after you've been very unlucky, but to be honest with you, in the environment that I was watching the game at, it wasn't that easy to I was signing autographs for our fans. I was telling them how you're doing because they were all asking about you. I mean, it was a very busy time for me. So I was only kind of watching the game. No, I don't know if it would have been a penalty, but if it hadn't been poked in by the defender, it would have been a backheel Rabona overhead bicycle Galazzo. I mean, he clearly was setting up for a spectacular goal there, and he only got cheated by the defender hitting it into his own goal.
Yeah.
Has an own goal ever won a Puskas award, by the way?
It will after Salah's bullshit goal. So
I think Lee Dixon might have scored a Puskas winning own goal 20 some odd years ago.
Yeah. So David, you had just mentioned that there's still that one thing that we have kind of need to figure out this season, and I think I figured out what it is, and his name is Alex Iwobi, because credit where credit's due, guys. He's gotten a lot of shit on this podcast, and this season, I feel like he's grown as a player. The limited minutes he's gotten, he's played really well. And for me, he was the game changer when he came on, and he had a beautiful build-up play for Ozil to snag the second. Mike, I believe that's his 45th goal in 3 games. I'm not sure if that's accurate or not.
It's. I mean, I think you're not doing enough credit with that.
But, Ozil's heard the haters, and, he's shown up to party, and he's got Iwobi as his wingman. And that, I'm just, it's great to have him come off the bench and make a big impact the way he did.
All right, so let's get into this, because this is going to end up, there's going to be a passenger that gets killed in this conversation, and that passenger is Welsh. And he's not going to be on this team much longer. And I don't know if Alex Iwobi, first you accused me of hating him when I didn't hate him. I just said that he needed to sit down for a little while because he was getting jaded. Then I started hating him. So I'm like, because I don't mean that in the personal sense. I mean, I just didn't think he was, should have been on the pitch. I'm sure he's a nice guy. Want to party with him, actually. But he has worked his way back into regular starting contention at this point. He's looked very good in his 20 to 45 minutes.
Of Ramsey.
Well, not in the position that Ramsey's been playing, but it's the slide over thing. I mean, if Ozil's playing on the wing, so that they can accommodate, the contract wanker Ramsey, and I know I'm being harsh because I understand that Arsenal pulled the contract out, but look. He's headed towards Alexis Sanchez territory for me, except without the dogs. But he needs to sit down for multiple reasons. I mean, his play, hit or miss. But I feel like he's keeping Ozil out of his preferred position. I trust Unai Emery. I really do. So the fact that he keeps playing Ramsey there rather than Ozil says something to me. But it was when Ramsey came out of the game, having given up the armband that they inexplicably gave him, and then he had to give it back up again. Ozil, I assume, again, I'm not a tactical genius and I wasn't paying that close attention, but I assume he moved into his preferred central role, and Ozil took and Iwobi took Ozil's spot on the wing, and that is what changed the game. And to me, I mean, if it were me and I was saying, well, what's our first 11 right now? What should it be for team unity, forward thinking, and on pitch performance? Ramsey would be sitting on the bench or with the U23s, and Iwobi might get that start. Him interchangeably with Mkhitaryan, maybe.
I'm not there yet. David, what do you think?
I think if we're really going to play a 4-2-3-1, then Ramsey's got to sit, because Ozil's got to start, and you can't throw one of the two of them onto the wing. But I haven't one of those guys that sits down and looks at XG ratings and looks at heat maps on Opta and all that nonsense. But I think if you looked at the heat maps from one match to the next, I think our formation has actually kind of shifted. And I think it's been really subtle for just a couple of guys. And I can only point to a few guys that I've actually noticed doing it. About maybe three matches back, and I can't remember which game it was, but about 3 matches back, Xhaka's out there, and instead of being in the middle and trying to get the ball, he was over on the left touch line. Like for the entire game, he just kept staying on the left touch line. It had to have been an instruction. And the only reason you would take 2 guys in the middle and shift one over to the left is if you're trying to build some space for someone else to come back, or if you're doing something else. You're doing a 4-3-3, or I don't know what. But he's doing something, and we're not. At least I'm not privy, obviously, to what those things are, what he's saying. If he was trying to do something like shifting a 4-2-3-1 into a 4-2-2, and I think they called it the magic rectangle when France played it like 20 years ago. You would have 2 holding midfielders with 2 box-to-box midfielders. And if you could call Ozil a box-to-box, and he's not, then that would kind of work in a pairing with Ramsey. I can't see any other formation where you have Ramsey and Ozil on the pitch at the same time. So I guess that's the long answer. The short answer is, if we're going to do 4-2-3-1, I don't know how Ozil and Ramsey ever play together again.
No, and I don't either.
By the way, can I just say, sorry, other than the 4-2-2 thing, which means that 2 players have been red carded, that was the best tactical analysis in the history of the world from someone wearing a shirt that says pants.
Pants.
I mean, that shirt is lying. It's lying, David.
I haven't stood up yet.
Sorry.
No, I was gonna say, if the story from BBC is true and the Ramsey contract was pulled by Arsenal, then I'm led to believe that another player is awaiting a transfer to our club, because you wouldn't offer a player a contract that he wants and then pull at the last minute unless an agent has picked up the phone saying, hey, Paul Pogba's on his way to North London, he's not happy up here, or just, I'm joking, but there's something in the mix, and I do wonder if,
Fekir. I'll take Fekir.
Yo, 100% I would. Hey, one new player that we need to talk about came on today, or on Saturday, was Leno. There's been a lot of criticism from people who watch German league football that he is not the keeper for Arsenal. I thought he was absolutely exceptional when he came on. And I'll tell you this, Mike, it's not easy as a goalie to mentally prepare to come on at any point in the game if you're not starting, because you don't warm up the same. Your first touch on the ball may be a fucking rocket shot. I think his first touch was that save where he went down low, and I mean, just absolutely outstanding. And I don't think he is going to uproot Czech unless there's an injury. But it's nice to see that, because
I mean, when Czech comes back, because there has been an injury.
Well, yeah, and I don't know how severe it is. I haven't.
It's weeks.
Oh, it is weeks.
It's gotta be. Yeah.
Well, and so okay, if we're talking weeks, then maybe he does uphold keep the spot. But I loved what I saw in the small amount that we saw from him.
He needed to do that because, frankly, you know, from what we've seen from him, and what was it, one Carabao Cup game and one Europa League game, and
the Europa League game, he was left out to dry on those 2 shots.
Well, he was on both of them. One of them he might have had a chance to get. The other one he had no chance, and he looked a little like alligator arms on it, to be honest with you. But look, I mean, who's to know, because there isn't a body of work that we can really evaluate for Jay. Apparently, the announcer called him Jay Leno. I don't know if it was the English TV
I think it was the English announcer, because I watched it. And
Jay Leno.
Yeah.
I mean, I made enough stupid Letterman and Kimmel jokes about our goaltender to be done with it by this point. But how do you do that as a professional announcer? But yeah, I mean, I don't want Czech to get hurt. I was absolutely horrified for him when he, because he pulled up, and it was one of those things where you just know it's 3 to 6 weeks. Although that happened last year to him or the year before, I don't remember which one. Towards the end of the season, I'm like, thank you for your service. Like I thought that was the last time I'd ever see him in an Arsenal shirt. And he came back strong from it. So hopefully he'll recover from this. But Czech's the better goaltender right now. I feel more comfortable with him. But after watching the second half of the game, after Leno came into this game, I'm encouraged because he's got to be our guy going forward. And maybe this will give him the impetus to get the job done. And, do we see, David, your thoughts on Leno, but also do we see Martinez play on Thursdays now and on Wednesdays for the League Cup, or do you think Leno plays every?
I was just going to say the same. I was going to ask you guys the same thing. Do we now see a full-on rotation to see Martinez get in there? Because one of the challenges I think for Leno is he's going to be under the microscope. Now we're all going to be looking for every little single sign of, aha, there it is. There's the moment he became our number one. Or, oh, nope, there's the moment he just proved he can't really do it. But I would like to see Martinez maybe get some games, and I don't know why. I really don't know why I want to see him get games, but I do. It's not so much. I mean, I think I'm hedging my bet. I think I want to hedge my bets on Leno as much as we spent on him. Martinez has been sitting there. And the only thing we've seen of him is, as a fan, has been in the last year training videos. I don't know if you ever noticed, but those training videos that Arsenal puts up on YouTube every couple of days, and it's the players all doing little shooting drills and whatever else. The guy in goal almost every time is Martinez. And he looks good in these little videos, these little vignettes that we get to see. But I don't know if that means a damn thing. I really don't. Did either one of you see the one from last week where they're doing a shooting drill? And Emery is right. It wasn't Juan Carlos, what's his name? It was actually Emery chasing the players around on a shooting drill, and he's screaming at Ozil. He's screaming, Masoud, shoot. He's like telling him, take a shot, pop a shot, go, go, go. Did either one of you see that? It was on like Friday.
No. I really want to go and see it. No. And it's a great segue, David, into what I was about to say. And I really hope this isn't pursued as Wenger bashing, because it's not meant to be. But very rarely when we were 2-0 up did we see Arsene on the sideline still barking orders to the players. And against Watford, Unai was down there in the last 15 minutes screaming at those players. And for me, my first thought went, okay, his mentality is this game is won. Now we want to win with a clean sheet, because that's something that we're missing. And so to your point, David, I think he's just that different manager whose expectations are higher, and we're seeing and hearing from all of these players that this mentality is very different from what they're used to. Maybe it's because he's younger, he has more passion, he has more to prove, but it just goes to show that the game isn't over at 2-0. Like, he wants for us to shore that up, because there's nothing better for a goalie and their defense to walk off the pitch with a clean sheet. Because if you're winning 4-0, instantly, if you're in those 5 positions, your brain goes to clean sheet is the way we win this. And when a goal goes in, you're thinking it could have been better. The rest of the team don't think that. It's those 5 players in the back that think clean sheet, clean sheet, clean sheet. And that just goes to show that he is that manager who's going to ride ass until the last day of the season, and I love it.
Yeah, I mean, at the event, yes, you're talking about that. I mean, there was the point where they showed him on the sidelines, and it was, I mean, I found myself jumping up and down giddily watching him so involved. And like you, I don't have an axe to grind with Arsene Wenger. I certainly don't anymore. And, you know, I know that he was maniacally involved in the game. It was just an internal thing with him, like losing sleep, you know, just going over things in his head. It didn't come out. That was just not his style, which is fine. It was dignified, but like, I don't know that it was going to get the players to respond. And
somebody yesterday did a heat map. I don't know if it was the BBC or somebody else. They did a heat map
on him
of Unai Emery on the tactical touch line back and forth. Yeah,
that's fantastic. I mean, I remember going to the game in Milan last year, the one where we won 2-0, and just shockingly at the time because of our form, put on a great performance. Arsene Wenger was up. He was at the corner of the technical area, and it was remarkable. Like our jaws dropped seeing him do that, because the week before at Brighton, he just sat on the bench with, you know, wringing his hands as we lost to a 15th place team. So, you know, but, and again, it's not about one, you know, one way's right, one way's wrong.
No.
I am in love with Unai Emery, and the clean sheet thing. I mean, this hotel room that I'm in hasn't seen 2 clean sheets in a row. So I think Arsenal's doing much better.
You know, we joked about this a couple of weeks ago, but I was watching the All or Nothing series on City, and I think the one big thing that's different in today's game is the backroom staff is expanded just from the coaches. They will have a team of statisticians and analysts who will watch games weeks out. And as David pointed out, there was something that happened yesterday where Xhaka was told, this is where you need to be on the pitch. So clearly Unai's team has looked at that and said, this is what we're seeing from Watford in the first 6 games of the season, and this is how we have to counter them. When there's 15 minutes left and everything is going right, Unai's thinking, I'm not doing this just for me and the 11 guys on the pitch. There's 10 guys behind that we're not seeing. And what was interesting in that All or Nothing episode is that the coaching staff of Pep were sitting in the locker room, and this guy, they're having a conversation. It was against a big Champions League side, and he said, in 2 weeks we play Palace, and that's going to be the team. And Palace went out there, and I think they secured the first points dropped. And that guy said that 2 or 3 weeks before. And so Arsene never saw that way of football. I don't think he had that team of analysts and statisticians. I think that's something the younger...
And if he did, he wouldn't let them get
and
through.
He wouldn't listen to it, exactly. But I think you're seeing Unai follow that trend of these other young Spanish coaches who come in and say, tactically, we're spot on. Let's just get this out. There's 10, 15 minutes left. Let's perfect this, you know, and because it's the work of a massive team. And it's great knowing that we have that. It's great seeing that. But these minds are brilliant. I mean, if you haven't seen the show, if you're a football fan, watch it, even if it's City. And the one thing I will say is episode 5.
Do you have to have Oasis playing in the background while you watch it?
Episode 5 is particularly hard because they beat us twice in 1 week. But the amount of respect that Pep showed us, because you see him in the locker room and we're down 3-0, and he just turned to his team and he goes, I don't know why, but this fucking team are the only team in the world who can erase our 3-0 lead.
Well, because he knew he was on camera.
No, but Mike, you see him in other matches where he's like 2-0, the game's over, don't get hurt, go out there, play, freedom, whatever. And there's more than that when he's talking about Arsenal, and it's unbelievable. But
I love how it's 3-0 at halftime.
Yeah. but sorry, back to my point is, we now have this system and we now have this management where there is more involvement, and it's exciting because there are things we're seeing on the pitch. It might not be flowing and it might not be pretty, but these players are being told to do specific things, and it's starting to come together, and I love it.
And you can have that and have it go horribly wrong as well if you don't have the right mix of players, and if the message is more constricting than like enlightening. Like these players seem to be taking to the added structure in a wonderful way, instead of the over control. The control freak. Unai Emery seems to be a control freak, but in the way that inspires people, not in the way that pisses people off. And again, we're saying this on the heels of 7 straight wins on a relatively flat patch. in the first season of, the first 2 months of his career at Arsenal. But I honestly, I hadn't expected things to take so quickly. And we're still 2 or 3 transfer windows away from having the exact, 18 people that Unai Emery wants on his starting 11. So if he's doing this with the 18 he was given,
The best thing that happened for us, though, and David, echo your thoughts after, City and Chelsea were excellent starting points because we got 2 losses out of the way, and then we got this flat track. It would have sucked if we had 3 easy matches, City, 2 easy matches, Chelsea, because you don't get that momentum. Now these players are showing up each day to practice, and they're thinking, 7, we got to go for 8. 8, we got to go for 9. And it's and like you said, Mike, there is that Liverpool, and there are those analysts looking at Liverpool saying, how can we beat them? But right now,
they've just been given a template.
Yes, but these players are now so confident going into this week. They show up to work tomorrow, and they're confident because this win is happening. And I think had we had these other teams peppered in, this is a great way for Unai to start his tenure at Arsenal.
Yeah, it is. It really is. You're going to play up or down to the competition, and if you just have a cakewalk to walk into the season, then it takes forever for something to start to get it kind of installed and to get moving. It always is. And to go back to, though, I want to go back to something you were talking about a minute ago. What about it kind of just about like the level of expectation that the manager sets. If you look at really almost any elite manager or coach or whatever in any sport, and the one that for some reason for me is popped into mind, despite the fact that I really dislike him, is in college football with Nick Saban. They could be winning 55-0 with 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter, but if their punter puts the ball out of bounds at the wrong spot or kicks it into the end zone when he should have tried to down it early or whatever, he's still going to pull the guy over and yell at him, scream at him, and look like a lunatic. But you're winning 55-0. Why are you doing this? Because we're establishing something here. And I think we're seeing some of that with Emery. That he's given instructions. He's trying to establish things, and I love seeing that. I absolutely love seeing that.
Absolutely. We are on this winning streak, and it just – the feeling persists that our attack, the groove still needs some polishing. I don't think we've figured out how Aubameyang fits into the scenario. We keep wondering, can Ramsey and Ozil play together? And we had that big discussion of, do we drop one of them for Iwobi? And I guess the most recent results, we see these flashes of just brilliance. Mike, I don't know, is it by design that we haven't figured it out yet? Is it Unai saying to these players, be a little bit more free-flowing and be a little bit more creative with where you are? Like, hey, Aubameyang, we're going to have you on the left, but when you want to merge into the middle, you tell Lacazette to pull out. I mean, is it just – have they not figured it out yet?
I don't think it's – I don't think it's not by design that they haven't figured it out. I mean, I don't think after 8 Premier League games, into a new era, you should have figured it out. I think this is the time to be trying new things, and they have. I mean, you have seen, like, I'll give you an example. And I know this isn't about the front, the front 4 or 5 or the attacking people, but you've seen a guy like Guendouzi go through a few cycles already, where he was like a first name on the team sheet the first few weeks, and now he's playing on Wednesdays and Thursdays and not on Saturdays and Sundays. Mm-hmm. And I think that's for good reason. I support that. And so, I mean, you got to try different things. And I think hopefully he'll start trying to play Ozil in the 10 and sitting Ramsey, because I've obviously advocated for that. But, it would be impossible for him to know exactly what our best starting 11 and formation would be at this point. And he's got to just try different things and see what works. Are we scoring 4 or 5 goals a game? No, we're scoring 2 or 3 goals a game though. And that's pretty damn good in this league. And you just keep putting the creative players out there that aren't stepping on each other's toes and playing the positions that, that having to be accommodated, in a different position rather than the one they're comfortable playing. And and I think we'll be fine. And again, the results are coming, and to support that and have a little bit more ability to do that on the offensive side is where our defense being stronger and getting those clean sheets comes in, because there's nothing worse than struggling to find your offensive groove when your defense is a sieve. And then it was starting to look that way early in the season, and they've rectified that.
Yeah.
And they've rectified that through somebody who I don't have anything prepared to say about him, but if we don't talk about him in talking about this game, then we're wasting an opportunity. Rob Holding.
Yeah, and I was sorry, I completely missed my little bullet point for him. Yeah, he was fantastic.
He looked like the beginning of the year in 2000. It was right after we signed him, which was when we met, Andy. I remember he actually scored a goal in the game that we went to together in LA. But like, he came out of the gate strong, and then it was almost never heard of again until the FA Cup final. I've been a fan, a supporter of the Mustafi-Socrates partnership, in light of the fact that Mustafi has clearly not made a whole lot of strong fans of him. I still think the partnership is good. I've said I'd rather have 2 5s who have a great partnership than 2 7s who don't know how to play next to each other. But by the same token, if he is displaced from his role because Rob Holding becomes a must start, that makes us a better team. Dave, you nodded when I said Rob Holding. So
I think Rob Holding's been fantastic, and I think some of it actually goes back to something. It's a theme that we've actually been saying on this already, which is that Embry is sending guys out with instructions. I think he and his team are coaching guys who haven't had coaching now for several seasons. And again, I am an absolute fan of Arsene Wenger. I always was. But I knew, and I think everyone knew, that one of the things he did not do was coach guys. He didn't coach them. There was a story especially defenders. Martin Keown, if you want to go back and find this somewhere, you will find an interview with Martin Keown where he said he went, and it was not more than about 1.5 years ago, that he was invited to come out to a practice, to come out to Colney, watch a training, watch a practice, whatever else. And he was watching a particular defender do something wrong repeatedly. And he told Wenger at the end of the training or the practice session, I'm going to go in and get the video guys to pull up a couple of clips because I want to show this guy this one thing. He just has to do something different, and it's going to, help him out. And Wenger, no, you will not do this. We are not going to ruin his confidence. If you do that, you're going to ruin his confidence. You're not going to do that. And Keown was just kind of flabbergasted and left it alone. Never said another word about it. Never said who it was either. My bet at the time was it was either Bellerin or Holding. I don't know why. I just felt that, because I felt like both of those are guys that needed and still do some coaching. They're getting the coaching. They're getting the instructions they need now, and I think that's why we've seen the improvement out of Holding.
Well, and let's talk about Bellerin real quick, because last year every match seemed like there was a calamitous error caused by Bellerin that would put a player on the other team through on goal. I would say, Mike, we haven't seen much of him in the last couple of weeks where he's been making the wrong moves. He's not
been a defensive liability in the last few years.
No, he hasn't. No, granted, he hasn't.
Well, no, Mustafi's playing the liability position at this point.
Yeah. But granted, Bellerin hasn't been going up against a Hazard type character or a Rashford every week. However, these are the matches where you get those foundations. As David said, you get that coaching and you get to put it into practice, and then against the better players, you then kind of you've got that confidence. And for me, I don't know if it's coincidence, but it's nice to see two of the young players that we're so used to seeing come into matches and be very iffy about, Iwobi and Holding. Now we're seeing them come in and we're saying, well, shit, I have no problem if Socrates is out for a couple weeks because I'm confident Holding has been getting that help and he looks like a good player.
And Bellerin, look, there was at the very beginning of the podcast, right before the North London derby that we went to, November 16. I called him a $70 million player, and I called him a world-class defender, and not because of his attacking capabilities as a defender, because of his defending capabilities and his recovery speed and the thing that he had just done against Chelsea in that game that we beat them 3-0. And then it all kind of just fell apart for him. I'm not ready to to lay that back on him at this point, but like he's a serviceable right back right now with an obviously positive potential as in the attacking third. And is it Lichtsteiner pushing him? Because we know that Lichtsteiner doesn't need to start games. We know that Lichtsteiner wants to make Bellerin better. Is it that? Is it the coaching from the staff? Is it, I am encouraged by the trend that Bellerin is on. I'm not ready to crown him as a world-class right back again, or a $70 million player, or even a $7 million player, but or pounds. But I mean, look, the map of whether players are in the ascendancy or the descendancy right now, there's very few of them that appear to be in the descendancy right now, and Bellerin's not one of them.
The only thing we can ask from players during this run of matches is that they're not making mistakes and they look like they're better players, and we're seeing that, and that's all we can ask. Now, come Liverpool, and God knows what type of a team they're going to be after these losses. But come Liverpool, we're going to really see what this team is made of. And until then, all we can ask is that these players don't make mistakes. And we've got another game in a few days, Mike. And this is going to be a long fight for a lot of these players. And I do think we're going to see a changed team on Thursday to give some legs rest.
Oh, yeah. I mean, as much as he's been starting strong lineups in the midweek games, this is one where I can't imagine he's going to have that. I mean, he might make 11 changes from this weekend in that game, and I don't think he would be, making a bad decision to do that. It's a ridiculous flight. It's more than flying cross country in the U.S., I believe. Mkhitaryan, we know, won't be there because while he may have been allowed to go, I don't think they want to fuck with that, which is ridiculous. They should not be hosting this game, much less the final. When you don't let Armenians into your country, you shouldn't be hosting a game against a team that has an Armenian in
it. You shouldn't be allowed to host any football match if you're not going to allow a player of any nationality to show up.
Well, and from everything that I've read, the things that are saying he's banned are a little bit – it's a little bit of exaggeration and simplification.
He's not welcome.
He's not welcome. Well, most are banned. Exceptions can be given, but if I had to sign a bunch of stuff and really not feel welcome coming over to your house in a week and a half, do you think I'd still go?
Well, it's not just that, right? It's like, hey, David's not allowed, but you are. If you're like, hey, David's a friend of mine, he's a compatriot, I'm not cool with that. It's just it's one of those vibes. It just, if you're Mkhitaryan, you're probably thinking, well, for my people, I don't want to go. It's
I'd love to see.
Ridiculous.
Would you like to see Arsenal do something more about, like say we refuse to play this game, we will forfeit it if UEFA forces us to forfeit it, but we're not going there without Mkhitaryan.
No,
because it would force UEFA to deal with the issue.
If there was a team to do that, I think we're probably, us and Chelsea are the two largest teams in that competition. And I think before you look at who falls into the competition from Champions League, we are favorites.
Chelsea likes discrimination, though, so it would have to be us.
But on paper, we are favorites. So we are probably the only club who could do that. But it's not worth it. At the end of the day, it is what it is. You're gonna fall into that with teams going to Russia, blah blah blah. It sucks for Mkhitaryan because this is the type of game where he could play.
Is he still hurt though? Because frankly, that might have ended up being a convenient out. Is the fact that he's been injured, and I don't know.
I don't know. You know what? He gets to rest up and he doesn't get to go on that long flight. But I would like to see a changed team going into that match, and I don't think we will, but I'd like to see it. It's the perfect game for us to leave Lacazette at home, let Aubameyang go, bang in a few goals, call it a day.
Or and we might see Welbeck up top like we did midweek.
Yeah,
and then Nketiah maybe get some of the other guys in. Nketiah and all.
We're dying to see Nketiah get in there. He's not even been making the bench in any of these games, but
Yeah. Well, Mike, that's all I have for notes on our match against Watford. I didn't know if you had any user questions or.
We do. We got a couple user questions today. Obviously, this was kind of a hastily thrown together podcast. I wasn't sure I'd be able to go this weekend because of a business conference, but
we're thinking about skipping.
This is my business right here. All right, this is what it's all about. All right, so first user question. I'm looking at my phone because I didn't transfer these to the page. From Ryan Cost, who has been interacting like a champ lately. Gooners in USA, would you want to be in Champions League knowing that we can't compete with the teams in the competition? So he's kind of he's essentially saying, would you want to be in the Champions League this year, given the fact that and I'll do this thing that I hate, the Man Cities, the Real Madrids of the world, the fucking all the assuming that we might actually get dumped in the group stage or sooner, which is a far, our coefficient probably is still high enough that we would have been in a pretty good group. But would you rather still be in the Champions League? Would you rather still be in the Europa League, or would you want to be in the Champions League and possibly go out early? I guess is the question. David, what do you think?
Champions League. I want to be in it. You want to play against the best teams.
Yeah.
100%. You want to play against the best teams.
And I know that.
That's even an alternate answer to the question a few minutes ago. We asked about, was it a good thing that we started this season off against Man City and Chelsea? Yes, because you want to go ahead and play the top teams. I want to play them now. When we would draw Bayern Munich in, the first knockout round year in and year out, I always, and of course after, you get hurt by that twice, 10-2, 2 seasons in a row. I'm still thinking to myself, I still want to play the top competition. We have to play them at some point. Let's go ahead and do it. And I feel the same way about trying to play in Champions League. I'd rather be in that than in Europa and say, I'll take that silverware. No, I want to play against the top.
And I know Andy will say the same thing. Andy, who we can finally see, by the way, those 5 minutes of having no video are now perfectly. You must have finally driven your wife and son crazy.
I got kicked out of the bedroom. Yeah, Champions League all day, and echo what David said. It's really to play those top teams, and again, we not to beat a dead horse, but this is a different Arsenal. This is a different management. This is a different group of individuals, and let's not forget that this is Unai Emery who left PSG. He didn't get fired. He left because he wasn't allowed to manage the way he wanted. We will not get beaten on aggregate 10-2 against a club side with him as our manager. He will not let that happen. It won't happen. It's so different now. So yeah, I want to be in the Champions League, and I'm confident that we will be back in the Champions League next season.
Yeah, and I think the more likely path is through top 4 than it is through Europa League.
Yes.
But which is the opposite of how I felt last season. But the next question is the question I'm going to give to David. It's from somebody who did not know that David was going to be the guest on the podcast. And frankly, when he sent it in, we didn't know that David was going to be the guest on the podcast. The question is from a Brian Whitener
oh, Lord.
of San Antonio, Texas, who says, Brian, by the way, one of our first listeners, one of our best listeners, one of our huggablest listeners, Brian says, laundry question. Teddy bears, machine washable or dry clean only? Now, David will know exactly what we're talking about because we have a certain mascot, I believe, in the Arsenal America family who is made out of fabric and probably is as dirty as anything has ever been in anyone's life.
I saw him this weekend.
Of course you did. You saw Brian, and you also saw Gooner Ted.
Brian, I was going to ask which one you were referring to because
Gooner Ted. Was that started by George?
The Gooner Ted?
Yeah. Who's the creator of Gooner Ted?
Like who? Well, there's been multiple Gooner Teds apparently. That's one of the worst kept secrets in the world. But
I think he was created by magic. Created by someone's wish. He was wished into existence.
Divine intervention.
Yes, absolutely. I I don't know who we first appeared with.
I think
it
George.
might have been George.
I think George had some. Our first podcast guest of all time, George, I think did actually have a lot to do with that.
I think you're right. He's been spending a lot of time in Dallas lately. So I saw him 2 weeks ago, and then I saw him yesterday. Now, how to clean him? It seems awful private.
I mean, what's the best thing to get semen off of fabric? I mean, I don't know.
I was trying to dance around that. I just wanted to say the word.
I don't dance around shit.
But I'm still trying to think back to the Ted movie, or there were two of them. I mean, he took a shower at some point, didn't he? In the movie,
he took a golden shower, I believe. I don't know what.
It was married the same. Yeah, that's right. Well, man. So why is Brian asking this?
I don't know. Maybe he's
guys, I don't want to have to appear in court because of something Brian's done to a teddy bear. We should just move on.
Yeah. Speaking of appearing in court, Andy, did you get my text?
I gotta start making notes for the deposition already.
And did you get my text from a few minutes ago? I need to ask you if you got that one.
All
right. Well, while you're looking for that text,
Jesus Christ,
from Tokyo Gooner, who spent the week in the United States of America, in Tennessee, as a matter of fact, and texted me yesterday. I love this guy. Texted me to find out how he could watch the Arsenal game from the airport in Memphis because he was heading back to Tokyo. And I walked him through the process of NBC Sports Gold, which was not easy. He must be back in Japan now, and he says, "What do you think Ramsey starts the game ahead of Iwobi or Welbeck tactically?" I'm gonna assume he means why do you think he starts the game ahead of them tactically, and we've kind of covered that a little bit. I mean,
I just think he has that defensive mindset. Where Iwobi isn't likely going to track.
I saw him tracking in this game.
No, and he did. But I think Ramsey starts the match with that in mind, and I think he pairs better with the central midfielders. But Ramsey still holds a lot of power. If we offered a contract, it's still there. I mean, we clearly want him as a player. I don't think he starts on another top 4 side in any European league.
Apparently, there's some rumors that Liverpool wants him.
That could be a good move for him. He would probably make them better because they've. Listen, Mike, I think he still has a lot to offer Arsenal. We've invested a whole lot of money in him, and I hope he signs that contract. But I think he just offers more to a side than an Iwobi type player. I think if we go 1-0 down, he can shift and be that attacking player. If we're 2-0 up and there's 10 minutes left, he can go back and be a defensive midfielder. He just offers more than any other player that was mentioned. So that's why I think he gets the nod over everyone else.
And now that you say that, by the way, if you noticed his there was a story in the UK press yesterday about or this morning, he left the match whenever he jetted off to Paris. Something about Ramsey jetting off to Paris after the win against Watford and how Arsenal fans are up in arms, which of course no one is. No one gives a shit. But if you look at Ramsey's Instagram from today, he went over to Paris for the Ryder Cup. He's a big golf fan. He plays golf. You see stuff about him, and
he might be buddies with Poulter or something like that.
Well, I don't think Poulter. No, actually, who he went with was Ox.
Oh, look at that. Let the rumor mill start.
Let the rumor mill start from there.
Ornstein, what you got to say about that, motherfucker?
I don't think
there's anything to it, to be honest. I think they're just pals. They both like golf. But on the question, though, about why he maybe starts, whether it's one thing about Ramsey, the guy's got a motor. He's got a ton of stamina. He just runs and runs and runs. And something that's occurred to me on occasion is I've kind of wondered, are we a second half team scoring goals because we make a tactical shift and suddenly everything kind of clicks together at the end of every these last 7 matches and we score a bunch of goals? Or are we outrunning people? And if we're outrunning people, putting Ramsey in early and letting him run someone to death and then bringing on a Welbeck or an Iwobi or someone like that who's got some speed and power is going to come on and run right past these guys who have been run to death for the first 60 minutes. I kind of wonder if that's not got something to do with the selection.
I don't know, and I'm dying to know what the locker room dynamic, what the dressing room dynamic is with Ramsey right now. I mean, it was clear that Alexis Sanchez was just absolutely busting that dressing room morale just by his presence. I don't get the sense that that's happening with Rambo right now.
No, because Sanchez wasn't given the captain's armband during the whole situation. Ramsey still is.
Which is my very next question. But, like, it doesn't appear that that's happened. But how long can you continue to work together and perform at your best when you have somebody who it's becoming increasingly clear is either going to be gone in 3 months or 6 or 9 months? And along with that, Andy, was there someone better on that pitch, maybe a certain center midfielder that might have been a better choice for that armband when Petr Cech came off?
Yeah, I would have given the armband to Xhaka, no questions asked. Like, you can question his play, but his leadership. If you ever watch one of our players get tackled, the first person to the referee or the other player is Xhaka. And so he loves everyone on this team. Here's the thing, Mike. You never hear bad things in the press about Aaron Ramsey. He stays at home.
It's the only thing keeping me off the ledge as far as he's concerned. I mean, I was drunk at 2:00 in the morning texting bullshit about Alexis Sanchez and his dogs for like 3 months before he left. I can't get myself to do that with Rambo.
You don't hear anything bad coming out of the Arsenal squad or the Welsh squad about Aaron Ramsey. Everything is positive, and I think that he is that one professional that will give 100% up until his last day for Arsenal. And whether that is for another team giving him a bigger contract or putting himself in the shop window, you know, it helps Arsenal because he has to play well to attract other teams. Again, I hope we can find that ground, but I just think he is the one professional where you wouldn't ever have to worry about him giving up. I think he'll always be that professional. And I think Unai is, you know, you don't give the captain's armband and you don't give playing time to someone if there isn't a chance or hope that he could be still on this squad. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, David, is it the impact of him being a true professional and playing and having that armband, or do you worry at all about the impact of the people around him? And how they will respond to him being a leader on this team. And you can't say he's not a leader on this team when guy got given, who's the vice captain of the game yesterday. You know, do you worry at all that the people around him will be like, you know, why are we still shoehorning this guy in when he's not going to be here anymore?
I don't know if did you see the interview? I want to say it was about 2 weeks ago where Petr Cech said that. Remember the first match of the season or so, Petr Cech had that really bad shot. It was like almost, or not shot. It was almost a shot on goal.
Right.
But he explained later that the reasoning there was kind of a momentary distraction about being worried about Cazidis and his contract. Did you see that interview?
Yes.
No.
It didn't happen. I don't think.
I knew that tweet from you.
Yes, that tweet was great.
Which I retweeted. I loved it.
I had to use it, but I would use that in this case too because. You know, the stuff with Sanchez.
No. I was referring to the tweet when it said like, me neither.
Me neither. Me neither. I didn't see.
Me either.
Okay.
The thing with
nice save.
I remember the tweet.
I'm hoarding it in here, I guess. Sanchez last season, his contract thing was obviously a distraction, and it was also his attitude, and he was just being a shit. Ozil was in the same position. And it kind of feels like people rally around him a bit in the locker room. Ramsey, though, you never see him. I mean, there's never even like an inkling of it. There's not like a wisp of smoke that there could be any kind of a fire around people getting annoyed about him, upset at him, anything. He just seems like, I mean, of course, this is all you're just kind of inferring things from the outside. It just feels like everyone's just kind of fine with him. I don't think the contract stuff's going to bother anybody at all about him. It looks like a fully professional decision on the part of the club and him. And if the story really is that we had come to an agreement yep, we're going to sign a new deal. We've got it was a 4-year contract. Bob, that's what Ornstein said. 4-year contract, blah, blah, blah. And then the club backed out. The only 2 possible explanations are that we felt like, I mean, first off, that we were idiots and couldn't do math previously, saying, oh, we can't afford his wage, never mind. Or that we actually made a decision, a footballing decision, that Emery or someone else in the footballing side said, this isn't working. You know what? This isn't right. And we need to kind of make the right decision here. And the right decision may not be for him to be in the squad.
Yeah.
If we sell him in January, then that's the case. If it goes longer than that, then maybe there was something else.
And I'm going to say what I said before. I think that something has happened between that another player will come in. Because, again, I don't want to keep going back to it, but when you watch the All or Nothing and they go into the January transfer window, that shit started beginning of October when they were identifying and they started conversations with clubs. And it happened back channels and there's already conversation that's happening. And they kind of touch upon the Alexis Sanchez part in that too. Like that started way before that week of the transfer deadline window. I mean, they were going into conversation with Arsenal at the beginning of the summer trying to figure that all out. And so if Unai or one of his teammates goes to another club and says, hey, we're interested in this player, can we get him? Sure, here's the fee. They talk to that player and say, here are the wages we can offer you, and he comes out cheaper than having Ramsey, then yeah, as David said, there's a footballing decision that's been made. We're going to find out in January. I don't think we'll keep him through the summer and lose him for free.
I can't imagine that happening.
No.
So we got 2 more user questions. We got to hurry up because Andy's got to get off and do his Man City podcast after this. So from Gav at She War, who, by the way, you should check out his Twitter account. He's got an online store with some very cool stuff, retro Arsenal jerseys. He's been a big supporter of our Gooners versus Cancer efforts. So. And
everything I bought from that guy has been awesome. Actually.
Oh, so you bought. The only reason I can't buy things from him is because I'm as big as a house.
Money.
No, money isn't the issue. It's the amount of pizza I've eaten, which leads me to the next question. But yeah, no, everything's double XL, and nothing's more than that. So I have to buy 2 of his things, rip them apart, and sew them together in order to fit over me. But Dave, you're an experienced user of Shiwar.
Bought several, quite a lot. At least 3 or 4 or 5 different orders I've made from them, and it's usually a couple things at a time.
And and Gav's been on the pod before. He's one of our ABW people that we've had on, and love the guy. He's got a very important question, which is: would you rather eat fruit on a pizza or cheese on a doner kebab?
Oh,
so I'm gonna start with Andy.
Okay.
Your answer and the reason, the rationale.
Okay. Maybe we'll lose some fans. Maybe we'll gain some fans.
Are we going to lose Turkish fans?
No.
Italians.
If you're going to put pineapple on your pizza, you might as well just go get bitch tattooed on your forehead. And you might as well just invest all the rest of your money into tampons, okay? It's all right.
We almost had the first official spit take of the podcast. You can't say that shit when I'm having a drink.
There could be nothing better than a doner kebab with some cheese on it. I would 100% add cheese to the kebab.
Okay, I love the kebab also. David, I have to go to you next.
Do you guys have a place called Mod?
No, he didn't specify pineapple, but I think it's kind of what you go to when you think fruit on a pizza. What's he gonna put an apple on a pizza?
Well, so do you get pedantic about it though, and point out that tomatoes are in fact fruit?
They are, yes. But
and the question is about putting fruit on pizza.
I think he said topping though, didn't he?
No, but I
fruit on pizza.
I think, all right, Mr. Brainiac. I think you know what the question means.
That's what I asked. You get pedantic, but do you guys have a place called Mod Pizza by any chance? It's a chain starting to spread. Saying it?
No, but you know what we do have? We have Waffle House.
Shut the fuck up.
I think we have mob pizza.
That's the one way to get David Ziegler fucking bent out of shape, is to talk about how you were at Waffle House last weekend.
Yeah.
Which I sent you a picture of because I know it would just drive you crazy. But all right, so no, we don't have that pizza place.
We do.
It's a little bit like it's like a Subway, but they make pizzas. So you walk up, I want the regular, or I want the really small one, and they put the sauce on, and then you just go down and whatever toppings you want, you can put on all the toppings you want. It's just
so they have a child molester as a spokesperson then.
I don't know who that was spokesperson is.
Okay.
They should find one. No, I'm trying to think now who in town should be their spokesperson.
Jimmy Stafford.
Not walk down this path.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah. Anyway, it's right across the street from my office. I go in there probably once every other week, and I get myself a pizza for lunch, and I get pineapple on it, and along with a bunch of other vegetables.
Oh no.
Yes.
Never again will he be allowed on the pod.
Andy, how are you gonna?
I'm sticking to my guns on this.
I hate when friends of my friends hate each other and call each other bitches.
To my guns on this, okay? David, tomorrow morning you gotta go and get a tattoo.
The next time you're on the podcast,
I do this anyway.
Ask to see your vagina next time you're on the podcast. I mean, that's.
Hey, can you send me your address? I need to mail you some tampons.
Oh, God. You don't even know what the other choice. The other choice is cheese on a doner kebab.
Don't they put feta on there sometimes?
Ooh, that would be good. Well, that's a euro.
Yeah, well, exactly. What's the difference then?
That's very true. There really isn't a difference. So, can we just all agree that feta would be great on pizza and a kebab?
I'm not a feta fan.
I have put feta on a pizza.
I'm a mozzarella and a Munster cheese type of guy, but I wouldn't put Munster on a pizza.
Here's the thing: is you really can't fuck up a pizza. You really
unless
can't.
You put pineapple on.
No. You really can't.
Now, does the pineapple have ham next to it at least, or is it just pineapple? Like, do you love that so much that you're not even going Hawaiian pizza?
I'm getting veggies. I'm getting all kinds of veggies, and then I have to throw in pineapple as well.
Yeah, of course. Veggies, of course.
Yeah, and ricotta on there as well. Ricotta, pineapple. I mean, this is just like a mash of all kinds of things I like.
I thought that we had something, man.
Pizza, you know what? Honest to God, pizza is a lot like sex in that you might have grades of good, and it might get not as good, but does it ever actually cross over into bad?
Yeah, when you put pineapple on it.
Look, can Lori please bring a pineapple into the room, please?
I feel like if you had sex with a pineapple, it would
that might be good. That would be better than having a pizza with a pineapple.
Yeah.
For the record, I'm not a huge kebab person, but I know our friends Rob and we go to kebabs all the time when we're in London. I will put cheese on anything. So I'll put cheese on cheese. So yeah, I would put cheese on a doner kebab. I'm not a big
you could put feta on there. That's perfectly acceptable. Yes, it makes it a euro. But what is really if you wanted to actually stretch all the way around to taco, and you're going from doner kebab all the way around to taco, you're really just taking
a reach around to a taco.
But we're talking bread with meat and then certain variations of these things. And the fact that there's only mild variations other than pineapple on it, you wouldn't put pineapple on a doner kebab. But you're really just talking about the same thing.
I would rather put pineapple on a doner kebab than a pizza.
David, would you put pineapple on the said taco?
On the said taco. We're stretching into we're kind of going meta here, aren't we? Yeah.
And for the answer, please listen to our podcast, Food and You.
Tacos and You. All right. The final question of the evening is from our very, very good friend, Lee Judges. This is a question. No, yes, he did. And he lost again. Lee Judges, who I made a wager this Thursday morning on the Ryder Cup. I foolishly supported my American golfers. He owed me $20 for the entry fee in the fantasy football NFL league that he has barely looked at for 4 weeks. And I went double or nothing for him. So suffice it to say, he doesn't owe me any money anymore. He asked me what happened in the golf, asking for a friend. You dick. You wanker, actually. So yes, congratulations to England and the rest of Europe for their victory, and Ian Poulter, who's a Gooner. And frankly, I care more about him than I do about any American golfer. So that was the last question. Anyone watch the Ryder Cup? It was on from like 3 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock in the morning.
That's the reason I didn't watch it. I taped it.
You must love that. I can see that. Are you torn? Who do you root for? That's a good question. Who do you root for?
Always England.
Yeah,
always.
I mean, when push comes to shove, you throw your American passport in the trash, in the bin.
I've only had the American passport for what?
I don't know. When did you send me that picture that I like to show you?
18 months ago.
I love how he decides the name of the podcast is gonna be, Gooners in the USA or like American Gooners or something like that. I'm like, but you're not American. Like we can't be called that.
That's because when I suggested this idea and I said, hey, the podcast is gonna be Andy's podcast about Arsenal. You had said that's a little too
feature FT period Mike. Featuring Mike, like I'm fucking Kanye West or something like that. Well, I think that's probably a good place to end. It's been another fun chat, another 2 wins.
Hey, do you know what was never said at the end of one of our podcasts, Mike? I'm craving some pizza with pineapple on it.
Yeah, no, I don't think we've ever gone there and when we do go there, the podcast is going to be retired.
Do you know what pizza with pineapple on it is? It's pants.
It's something you get if you're skint and if you don't have a Scooby. All right, so
he likes my shirt. I think that's what he's saying.
Yes,
I do. Yeah. Does your pants say shirt on them? That's what I need to find out.
No, it says hot steaks.
My pants don't have anything on them because I'm not wearing any.
Hey, I noticed there's a Gator helmet in the background. Did you go to Florida?
I did.
Yep. Something that David, the 2 things David and my wife have in common is that they both went to Florida and they both like to drink.
Well, so I'll be back in David's circle of trust in about 30 seconds. So a couple of months ago, we were on a big family kind of hangout thing, and I
that we're still doing the pod, right?
Yes, I made the comment. I said it's weird that no one yet has gotten Ollie any Florida Gator clothing because Chris's father, uncles, she almost went there, are all Gators. And then one of them said, well, we just assumed that he wouldn't be allowed to wear any other sports paraphernalia except for Arsenal. And I said, no, that's not the case. And then within 2 weeks, I'm not kidding you, the kid got like every article of clothing a 12-month-old could wear. So now he's inundated with Gator gear to pretty much for the next 2 years of his life.
That's class.
So
that's class.
Yeah.
Your son's a Gooner and he's a Gator.
I dressed him in a Gator onesie actually last weekend when we went to a college football party.
I don't know, every picture I've seen of you guys, and you did a beautiful photo shoot from the pumpkin patch this weekend, I have to say.
Thank you.
That was very heartwarming. And he was, of course, or you were, of course, in Gooner gear.
And speaking of which, there was another Gooner there, and I was wearing the jacket, the black and pink one, and he went, cool jacket. I'm an Arsenal sports. We started chatting, and he goes, you opted for the pink. Did you do that like on purpose? He's like, yeah, actually, I really like this. Like the color.
Did you do that on purpose? Like, was he trying to be a dick? I mean, yeah, I accidentally clicked the wrong button, but I'm just gonna go with it.
But was it a gift? I think that's usually what somebody asks. Was that a gift?
Yeah, and
your wife bought that for you, didn't she?
It was a gift, but it was a gift I prompted someone to buy me, saying I like this a lot.
Your wife bought that for herself, and it turned out to just fit you better.
The European sizes are weird. Get a men's extra large.
They're really weird.
It'll fit you.
I really like the black and pink.
Oh, I do too. I love it. I love my Lacazette jersey. I love my Lacazette jersey. I love the Xhaka one from the year before, the black and yellow. I like that kind of shit. I just don't like the mint green. I'm not getting that. I'm not feeling that.
I'm not doing the mint green. The dark blue with the neon that they gave out in LA.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorites.
That's a good.
The last several years.
You know, Tim my neighbor behind me, who's been on the pod, he got the mint, and I saw.
Looks like there's a curtain behind him, but there's actually a neighbor named Tim behind him.
He was wearing the mint shirt last week, and he had the long sleeve one. I went down and got a close up, and I headbutted him, tried to get it off. He ran away, but it's a good looking shirt.
All right, so we beat Brentford. We beat Watford. I spent all day yesterday with Rob Ford. It was a great week. I can't think of a better way of going into the month of October than with 7 straight wins. So
I love how you and I have a conversation about keeping our pods 50 minutes or less. And this one's like 4 hours long.
Well, let's be honest. You had a conversation about that. I just entered. I'm like, no, it has to be 2 or more hours or I'm not doing it. So
I said to him, David, I said, I got 2 suggestions for upcoming podcasts, one of which you're going to hate. and that was let's keep it below 50 minutes.
Well, which was better than the normal, because I'll go out and write a whole fucking agenda for the podcast, wherein it's obvious it's going to be about an hour 45 minutes, and he goes, "Oh, I got a hard stop 40 minutes after we start. Can we do that?" And I'm like, I just fucking spent my entire week writing this thing.
No one's listening at this.
So your 2 options were to keep it under 50 or bring me on and go to an hour 45.
Let's
bring Ziegler on, have him run his mouth. Okay.
I went with the latter one. So
30 minutes of this pod has been us discussing pineapple.
Yeah, well,
it's been an awful lot of that.
This is why Andy and I work so well together. All right, so that's it. Please check us out on YouTube. Check out Andy's dog in a minute. He's about to climb on his lap and take a shit. Check out David Ziegler at David C. Ziegler, Ziegler, on Twitter, also known as at Epico, or whatever we want to call your Mexican name, at El Pineapple O. And then the next podcast we'll get to see what his pants say on them. But please like our videos. Like our videos if in fact you actually like our videos. Subscribe so you know when we're doing them. Like us on YouTube. Listen to us on MySpace. Do whatever the fuck you want to do. It's been fun, and we'll be back on next week with the final pod before Andy and I get to reunite, and that should be exciting. I'm sure we'll do some content when I'm over at his house on the 11th. And that's it. Anything else, boys?
No. Bye.
All right. Come on, you Gooners. How do I turn this fucking thing off? Okay.
Off there.